Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a profound and complex issue, the role of free will in addiction. Is addiction a matter of personal choice, or is it driven by compulsion and external factors beyond an individual's control? This question touches on deep philosophical debates about free will and determinism. In this video, we'll explore various philosophical perspectives on this issue, examining how they apply to the experience and understanding of addiction. Let's get started. Section 1. Understanding free will and determinism. Free will, the power to choose. Free will is the concept that individuals have the power to make choices that are not predetermined by prior causes or divine intervention. This idea is central to many ethical and legal systems, which assume that people are responsible for their actions because they can choose freely. Philosophers like René Descartes and Immanuel Kant have argued for the existence of free will. Descartes believed that human beings have a soul that allows them to make free choices, separate from the deterministic laws of nature. Kant, on the other hand, argued that moral responsibility requires free will. Without it, the concepts of duty and moral law would be meaningless. Determinism, the inevitability of causation. Determinism is the idea that every event or state of affairs, including human actions, is determined by preceding events in accordance with the natural laws. This view suggests that given the state of the world at a particular time, only one future is possible. Philosophers like Baruch Spinoza and David Hume have supported deterministic views. Spinoza argued that everything in the universe, including human actions, is part of a single deterministic system. Hume, though often associated with compatibilism, the idea that free will and determinism are compatible, emphasized the regularity and predictability of cause and effect in human behavior. Compatibilism, bridging free will and determinism. Compatibilism is the belief that free will and determinism are not mutually exclusive and can coexist. Philosophers such as Hume and more recently Daniel Dennett argue that individuals can have free will even if their actions are determined by prior causes. According to compatibilists, free will is about acting in accordance with one's desires and motivations, even if these are shaped by prior events. Section 2. Addiction and the free will debate. Addiction as choice, the argument for free will. Some argue that addiction involves an element of choice. Proponents of this view suggest that individuals initially choose to engage in substance use and therefore hold some responsibility for their subsequent addiction. They point out that many people with addictions can and do make choices to seek help and achieve recovery. For instance, philosopher and neuroscientist Mark Lewis argues that addiction is a result of the brain's plasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt based on experiences and behaviors. According to Lewis, while addiction involves powerful habits and brain changes, individuals still have the capacity to make choices that can lead to recovery. Addiction as compulsion, the deterministic view. On the other hand, many argue that addiction is a form of compulsion, significantly limiting an individual's capacity to choose freely. This perspective emphasizes the role of genetic, psychological, and environmental factors in driving addictive behaviors, suggesting that these factors can create a compulsion that overwhelms the individual's ability to exercise free will. Neuroscientific research supports this view by showing how addiction alters brain function, particularly in areas related to decision-making and self-control. These changes can make it extremely difficult for individuals to resist the urge to use substances, pointing to a more deterministic understanding of addiction. Section 3. Philosophical perspectives on addiction and free will. Existentialist views. Existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre emphasize the importance of individual freedom and responsibility. Sartre famously declared that existence precedes essence, meaning that people are free to create their own essence through their choices. From this perspective, even in the context of addiction, individuals are ultimately responsible for their actions. However, existentialists also acknowledge the profound difficulty of exercising free will in the face of powerful compulsions and societal pressures. While they argue for the possibility of transcending these influences, they also recognize the significant challenges involved. Phenomenological approaches. Phenomenology focuses on the lived experience of individuals, providing a nuanced view of addiction. Philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty, for example, emphasized the role of the body and perception in shaping human experience. From a phenomenological standpoint, addiction can be seen as a condition that profoundly alters one's experience of the world, making it feel as though one's choices are severely constrained. Phenomenological approaches highlight the importance of understanding addiction from the first-person perspective, recognizing the subjective experience of compulsion and the struggle for autonomy. Moral responsibility and addiction. The question of moral responsibility is central to the debate over free will and addiction. If addiction is primarily a matter of compulsion, this raises questions about the extent to which individuals can be held morally or legally responsible for their actions. Philosophers like Thomas Scanlon argue that responsibility should be understood in terms of the capacity for rational self-governance. If addiction undermines this capacity, it may mitigate individual responsibility. However, this does not mean that individuals with addiction should be entirely absolved of responsibility. Rather, it suggests a need for compassionate and supportive approaches that recognize the complex interplay between choice and compulsion. Section 4. Addressing addiction, philosophical and practical approaches. Empowerment and choice. One practical implication of recognizing the role of choice in addiction is the emphasis on empowerment and personal agency in treatment. Approaches such as motivational interviewing and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, focus on helping individuals recognize their capacity to make choices and change their behavior. These approaches aim to strengthen the individual's sense of autonomy and control, supporting the idea that despite the challenges of addiction, people have the power to make meaningful changes in their lives. Compassion and support. Acknowledging the deterministic aspects of addiction underscores the importance of compassionate and non-judgmental support. Harm reduction approaches, for example, prioritize reducing the negative consequences of substance use without necessarily requiring abstinence. This perspective recognizes the complex factors driving addiction and seeks to support individuals in a way that respects their autonomy while addressing their needs. Conclusion. In this video, we've explored the profound philosophical debate over the role of free will in addiction. From arguments supporting the idea of addiction as a matter of choice to perspectives emphasizing compulsion and determinism, it's clear that addiction is a complex and multifaceted issue. Understanding this debate can help us develop more nuanced and compassionate approaches to addressing addiction. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the philosophy of addiction. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more thought-provoking content on philosophy and mental health. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep striving for a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you.